Today, we're going to be talking about preparing for innovative communications. And the beauty of this is that many of you are probably already doing some elements of this. I get to show you all how we're really working to do that in the Office of Equity. So I'm Trayana Holiday. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Communications Director for the Office of Equity. And it is such an honor to be in this role and to build a team who not only gets to exemplify what it means to model the way through our strategies and approaches to communications, but also really working to try to bring these out every year at the convening and throughout the year for the enterprise. So we've really spent some time building up our internal kind of communications plans and our channels so that once we really start bringing it out into the enterprise, we have a solid model that we've built internally. It's really the best way to try to do that work. So I'm grateful that we've gotten the time to build it. So let's start the presentation. There it is, preparing for innovative communication. Next slide. In this presentation, I want y'all to be ready to discuss the concepts in groups and then share out with everyone. Be ready to share your own examples and be ready to dive deeper into ideas you might already know and be ready to be open and have fun. Can we agree to those terms there? We good? All right, folks online, are we good? Feel free to continue to connect with me through the chat. I'm so grateful. Our setup here, I can connect with you all. For those online, you have the opportunity to drop your examples in the chat and share amongst each other. Comment on other people's examples, and that's how we're creating a collaborative community virtually, but we'll also be working to pull out some of those examples when we share out with the group. Next slide. All right, so what is innovation? We could talk about this probably for a while because it can mean a lot of things. A couple of things I want us to be mindful of as we think about innovation is new ways of storytelling or using new techniques to tell stories. And they kind of sound similar, but they're different. When I understand innovation in terms of new ways of storytelling, specifically for government communication, so much of that is personalization. I talked about this last year. For any of you who were at the convening last year, personalizing your communication is a new way that government hasn't done it before. And if you were here yesterday, you got a glimpse of that with our annual report video. Putting people in front of the camera is something that isn't always easy to do because a lot of folks are not prepared to be on camera. The great thing about new technology, what kind of gets me to the last point there, is with prompters on screen and things like that, you can still write out amazing talking points or a script for folks to follow so that they can be in their natural element, but also really hit the points that you need them to hit. One of the things I get excited about is when people are experts in their roles and they've really settled into who they are in their agency, their office, their role, a lot of that stuff starts to come naturally for them. If you approach me and you ask me, Trayana, how do you like your job? Or what do you do on your job? Those are things I should be able to discuss with you like that because I'm doing it every day. But I'm also a communications director, so I'm used to communicating. Some people don't always have the ability to articulate what they do every single day. And so when you're thinking about innovation in your office, in your agency, in your department, Essentially, you want to be thinking about a range of ways that you can connect with folks that you're trying to have on camera so that they can feel confident in the personalization of your comms. So these are some of the things that you want to be thinking about. What is your approach to them? How do you meet people where they are? How do you bring people along or bring them up so that their comfort level really shows on camera? One thing I think many of you may have seen at times is the uncomfortability that folks have on camera. And it really rings through for anyone that's watching in terms of the audience. So you want it to feel natural, conversational, relational. So it can't just be talking heads on screen. I think we've seen that too, right? Or talking heads doing talking points that they've memorized because it comes through that way. Am I right? Have y'all experienced that? Okay, I see heads nodding. Y'all can drop it in the chat if you've experienced that too. What we really want to work to do is work with our team members. I see you, Sarah. Yes, with an exclamation point. We want to work with our teams and get them to understand that this is a part of how we're going to start telling stories about the work of our office. It's a message that you want to be utilizing all the time. You have to drop these hints. Hey, get ready, y'all. Remember, we're going to be doing that video. I'm going to be calling on several of you. I don't know who you are yet, so just be ready, right? And then when I get my group down and I'm like, who is actually needed in this video, then I can start working with them. All right, here's your script. What do you need from me? Here's an example of how I did it. When we talk about cadence and tone, all of those things are important, specifically when you have a very direct message that you're trying to get across, right? Every piece of content has its own goal. So it starts there. Oh, is this informative? Is this fun? Is this engaging? Oh, is it all three? Okay, well, here's how I got to show up. And so creating examples for folks to follow is a great way to start bringing your team members along so that they can be a part of the communications you're building out. I'll say this too, because I'm experiencing this a lot. When we think of innovation, it's not one-pagers. It just isn't. We make a lot of one-pagers, right? Like, oh, we got this amazing one-pager. It says everything. We got this amazing two-pager. We did a really fun background with it, right? That is not what we're talking about here. And kudos to those who make amazing one-pagers because they are necessary. In some cases, when you're trying to get a lot of information out to community, one-pagers has its place. It's not necessarily in the field of innovation. So I want to make that very clear. I see a lot of communications plans that say, we have a one-pager. I'm like, what else? How many one-pagers do you have as you're bringing a project along? That's not the only way to connect with community. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people are not reading your one-pager. We think because it's a short document that everyone is going to engage with it. And the truth of the matter is that's not true. So one of the things we really work to do is pull things out of a one-pager and make those engaging, right? You may have a really great piece of content that explains something you're doing. How can you now get somebody on camera to say it? Put that up as an Instagram reel, a TikTok video. Now you have folks who are like, wow, and you can direct them back to your one-pager, right? Pull things out of your written documents. That's the kind of innovation we're talking about. The kind of innovation I get to show you all today, I have several examples that we'll go through. And when I talk about being ready to share your examples, to talk amongst your tables, and to share out more broadly with the team, each of the examples is really video based, and I want to get your perspective on these videos. What I recognized was that there just wasn't enough video being produced. As soon as I got into my role, I'm like, I don't know anything about what's going on in state government in the way that I consume information. So how can I, as a communications director, begin to build things that would be engaging to me? One thing we say at the Office of Equity is, we are the Washingtonians we're looking to serve. Right? So how do you consume information? How do you learn new things and find a new pathway to do something that is helping and beneficial to your life, right? We need to be creating those pieces of content if we really want to engage not only the enterprise, but the community and those we're serving. So you're going to see several different kinds of videos today. We have a long form video. We have short form videos in 4 different ways. So we got about 5 examples of video that we're going to dive into today. Next slide. Here it comes. It's so true. She said, it's still early. The computer's figuring out things. Yes, absolutely. No, no, this isn't it. Just the next slide should say, I have a couple more slides before that. We were just on the innovation one. What is innovation? Here we go. Innovation discussion. So I want us to have a discussion amongst all of us, so this doesn't have to be at your teams, but let's start talking about some of the ways that you are innovating your communications in your role, and maybe some of the ways that you've seen it if you're not, specifically responsible for it. What kind of results have you experienced from the approach to be innovative? And what is important for government communications when we think about innovation? You can see there that I'm saying we're aiming to center people and have a really people-centric approach that helps drive the narrative in a personalized way. So we have a mic runner, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy, so very much. Just raise your hand. You can answer any one of these. We're going to be sharing today. I know y'all didn't come to the Innovative Communications workshop and think you just get to sit there and listen. Feel free to drop your answers also in the chat, and I'll be working to try to see what y'all put in there. All right. All right. Hi, what is your name?
Hi, my name is Erica Juarez. I use she or they pronouns, and I work at Kitsap Public Health. I'm the equity program coordinator, so I don't necessarily work directly in communications, but one thing that we're working on in Kitsap is automatically making sure that anything we put out is translated at least into English and Spanish, and that if there's a video, there's someone from the Spanish-speaking community that people trust and know who speaks Spanish as a first language, not someone who is not a native Spanish speaker or not from the Latinx community in Kitsap. And then it's important for government communications because we are often the ones that have to relay important time-sensitive news, and we're not always looked at as necessarily the first trusted source that people come to. So I think having innovative communications can help sort of bridge that gap.
Yeah. Great example, too, of the native known Spanish speaker. That's another kind of personalized approach, right? But it already is building from established relationship, which really helps when you're trying to be specific in terms of targeting a community. So thank you. That's a really great example.
Hi, my name is Stevie Alexander. I use she, her pronouns, and I am with the Washington State Department of Ecology. And I work in a very small siloed office. We're the
Hello?
Office of
Can you hear
Shared
me?
Spaces.
Hello?
So we navigate a very specific
Can you hear me?
oh my gosh, I can't say this word, geographical area.
Hello?
And it's very specific where
Yes.
we're dealing
Hello?
two tribal nations. We're dealing with two very low income counties in this state. And we're actually going through a rebranding of how we're connecting our office, because our office was by the governor's office created, and then it got pushed under ecology. So it's been a really hard way to navigate something that's been around for many, many years that's now being underneath a government office. And we're reaching a space where it's becoming a very not political led space, but the work that we're dealing with the people who have lived on this land for centuries, it's either very for something or very against, and they will very much let you know what they want. And so we're trying to navigate getting away from just digital because we deal with so many low income families, the elderly generation that maybe doesn't know how to access the internet or how to use social media, while at the same time you're trying to navigate the younger crowd. So we're trying to find that balance in separating those two things. And I think especially in our area, the walking, going door to door, going to council meetings, going to schools, and making sure that we are face to face with these people and the city officials, and making sure like they're putting faces to names and not just a website is something that we're really pushing to do and trying to do. And it's not something that's been thought about a lot because we are in a digital age. But I mean, as we just saw, technology doesn't always work. And we can't assume that these low income counties that don't even have access to high-speed internet, right? We learned that in the pandemic. There are schools that kids didn't even have access to the internet to do their schoolwork. So how do we expect people who aren't native to this state, people who don't speak our language, people who live out in the rural, oh my gosh, I can't say that word either, rural areas, or don't trust the government? The counties that we work in are two very red counties, and sometimes you see a government agency going in and it's already defensive. It's already, I don't want to listen to you. It's already, well, what are you doing here? This is my property, get off. So it's been an interesting way to try to navigate the innovativeness. Sorry, that was long-winded. I love a microphone.
No, it's a great example. It's interesting how in 2024, innovation can also incorporate going back to analog. Isn't that interesting? Because you're absolutely right. I think there's something so key and valuable about making sure that folks who you're targeting get the information in ways that they can consume it. And so that might mean I need to print something. I need to be physically there. That's definitely a part of what we're going to be talking about later. That's a great example. In the chat, I'm going to go to one example here. Thank you from Autumn Wade. Our program has always done flyers, okay, there it is. Flyers, one-pagers, fact sheets. I'm currently leading a project where we are revamping our website, new flyers, but also doing a whole social media campaign. We did a flip book. This is new, so I'm not sure how much more engaging these will be, but excited that we are trying something new with the social media campaign. We've also talked about a video, but starting small, and maybe we'll work up to a video. Again, no results yet, but excited that I'm allowed to try new things to teach and educate people about my unique program. Great example, Autumn. Thank you so much for sharing. Flip books are definitely fun, and I love hearing that this is something that can be incorporated, right? So that's a really great example. Go ahead.
Good morning, Inez Olive with the Student Achievement Council. I am not directly in communications, but I did want to kind of share something that I see from my perspective innovative. Our council has quarterly board council meetings, and since the pandemic, we have decided to move those council meetings out into different regions of the state. And the invitation goes out the night prior to, well, excuse me, we do a dinner the night prior to the council meeting that it's framed as a community dinner. It's hosted at a community vendor, and we invite, yes, higher education, educational partners, but more importantly, the local community-based organizations who are trusted sources and vessels of communicators to the community. And it is through that dinner that we develop relationship. We're able to get direct feedback from that region and also communicate the work that we're doing in that region. And then it's through that we build relationships and foster them through these partnerships that then becomes another way to kind of bring awareness to that local community of the work we're doing. Again, not in communications, but as we're thinking about innovation and how do you then communicate with a very diverse state and serve all Washingtonians, let's go to them.
Yeah. That's another way of meeting people where they are. It's a great example. I'm glad y'all are talking about that being on the ground piece, because it's definitely something that we're going to be diving into. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Heather Fry, Washington State Parks, she, her, hers. You can call me anything but late for dinner. But we at Parks just went through, for the past 2 years, launched in October, but a very extensive UI UX redesign of our website and our digital properties. It's certainly a work in progress, but we're very proud to say we've brought it to a Web Content and Accessibility Guidelines standard of 2.1, 2.2 AA. That's something we continue to work on telling the stories of our agency through digital means. We've pared our navigation down about to a third. We've built in huge amounts of things that will make it, and we're very proud to say as well that we've begun getting recognition both from the community and also from other recognition agencies. Why is that important? I look at it as that our website is our front door, and we want to widen that front door. The outdoors are for everyone. We believe that truly at Washington State Parks, and it begins with getting people excited, feeling comfortable to go out to the outdoors and enjoy the outdoors, because these are our lands. So
Yeah, that's a great example too. I think always when we think about website redesign, that user experience is important. So thank you for sharing that. We learn a lot through the accessibility standards, and as they grow, we have the opportunity to bring more and more accessibility to our community when it comes to our digital comms. I really like the term of, websites being our front door. It normally is the first place that people have access to who you're about, what you do. And that's an important note there. I have a couple more examples here in the chat. Let me share one. Thank you so much, Sarah Powell. I work in the Office of Workplace Culture and Development at DNR. When we did our pair public comment session on Zoom, we had interpreters for ASL, Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Russian, Tagalog, and Korean, so that the communities we serve had the opportunity to join us and comment on their needs. Language accessibility is vital. It really is vital. So thank you so much, Sarah, for that example. It's great when we can expand on our usage of technology to include the communities that oftentimes are never included, particularly when it comes to language. Another great example. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Anna Cairns. I work for DSHS with Residential Care Services. My role is I'm a licensor for assisted living facilities. So I'm on a bigger team of about 30 other people that are all around the state. And so we've started a new method using Microsoft Teams as a support to each other because there's so many instances that are time sensitive where we're working with the facilities on the WACs and laws and regulations and trying to keep people safe and determine what to do in those circumstances. And so we have essentially this lifeline in Teams where we put it out there, this is the situation, this is what's going on, have you had this happen before? And we're able to put in the WACs and reference the management bulletins and kind of help each other so then we can help the provider have accurate information right away so they're able to assess the situation and go from there, which ultimately serves the residents better. So that communication where 30 people can support each other all over the state has been so helpful. And then you're also not feeling like, is this a stupid question? But more, maybe there's other people on the team that also don't know. So we also kind of can give each other updates when we find something out.
Nice. I mean, because communication is internal as well. So that's another great example. Especially because a lot of our jobs are either remote or we're spread out throughout the state. So we have to have these centralized ways to communicate. That's a great example. I have one more online. Ayagna, sorry if I pronounced it wrong. I recommended changing our new hire orientation to make it more effective. It was a snooze fest. Inconsistent sound, lots of words and acronyms that new employees do not understand. Most employees had more questions than answers after going through it. It's still being fine-tuned, but we cut out a lot of unnecessary information, condensed information, defined acronyms, and reduced the overall time new hires have to sit and listen. That's another great example. The onboarding process is very, very specific for each agency or office. So that's a great example because we all have to go through it. How do we make it more streamlined and more engaging for new hires? Those are some great examples. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Valerie Desrochers. I am a program specialist or lead worker with the Alternative Solutions Program with the Division of Child Support. Sorry, there's an echo and it's really tripping me out. But during COVID, we always did outreach to prisons locally, just the division in general. And during COVID, we could not go out to prisons. So I'm in Kennewick and I did regular outreach to Coyote Ridge Corrections. I feel like incarcerated parents have very little access to information about their child support. I don't know if you know, but the kids line, they cannot access, that's the phone number you call to get information about child support because their DOC phones don't work if a live person doesn't answer the phone. So we've always tried to do outreach out to Coyote Ridge and Washington State Penitentiary over there in Kennewick. And during COVID, we could not, and I was feeling really frustrated that there was no way to get this information to parents out there. So I worked with the Coyote Ridge Correctional Program Manager and established a phone consultation program where the classification counselors were helping assist us meeting with parents that are incarcerated over the phone. We would set a schedule once a month. When it first happened, we had about 200 parents who were incarcerated sign up to speak with us. So we had like 30, once a month we would meet, and we did that for about 8 months. And then we dwindled it down. So now we have, she took it over, but she's doing bi-monthly, probably about 10 or 15 parents bi-monthly that are getting access to information that they wouldn't have had access to. And what's really cool is we are able to have our computers in front of us, looking at their case information, have all the information that we need to get them what they want to know. The results have been amazing. I feel like they feel heard. They feel like we care. We have a lot of empathy for their situation, being there, not having that information. I think it's huge. Both of us, this is Renee Camacho, she's my co-lead, and we both have a huge passion for helping incarcerated parents have access to information, and so we hope to expand this program statewide. It's just a struggle with, trying to do our regular job and also thinking about how to make this happen throughout the state. But that was an innovative way that we found we were able to get communication to incarcerated parents when we couldn't go out there and be with them in person, so. Thanks.
Wow. Y'all are giving some great examples here. That's another great example. I think there's so many different ways to be innovative, especially when you start talking about how to reach the folks on the ground. So thank you again for that good example there. Okay, so I'm gonna read one more example here from Martha Villarosa Walker. Thank you, Martha. One thing we're working on in our division is making sure that we plain talk the language used in our training materials. Immigrant, although English is my second language, I still find understanding the language sometimes difficult, especially when it's too academic or the message is vague, not telling me how the subject is relevant to me. I use that experience when I create materials by making sure that the terms being used can be easily understood by the ESOL speakers and providing real-life examples so learners can see how they can apply those concepts in their lives. Great example, Martha. Thank you so much for sharing that. We need more. This is why diversity matters, right? Because lived experience is a part of innovation. We already should know this. And when it comes to government communications, right? The more diverse teams we have, the more we're able to make sure that we can bring those lived experiences into our strategies and our approaches. Great example. All right, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Castillo, and I work at the Yakima Health District as a community health specialist. And I just wanted to add, in response to some comments about working with low-income communities who may not have access to the internet, something that we've been doing at the health district is working more closely with different local radio stations, both in English and Spanish, to share information, and then also working more closely with CBOs and just having more regular meetings and conversations with them, talking about the services we're doing so that they can then relay that information to the folks that they serve. We still really haven't dived into videos, but we do still do one-pagers and flyers, but what we're trying to do differently with those is getting community input and feedback on them before we officially publish them, just sharing them with a trusted community leader to get them to review the materials to see whether they're in plain language or it's going to be information that's going to be accessible to the community.
Yeah, you bring up a really great point around radio. I mean, that's sort of one back. I agree. It is one of those things that I'm looking forward to incorporating more when we think about broadening our messages across the state. Did we get to all of our in-house examples? These are really great examples. Y'all are on to a good start. One last one. Go ahead. Wendy's coming by.
Good morning.
Morning.
Jim, my name's Jim, he, him pronouns, and I'm currently at the Liquor and Cannabis Board. The thing I remember where I was at prior was my boss at the time calling me heading into Pride Month and assuming, not asking me, that I would want to do a presentation about queer history because I'm part of that community. And I carried that experience with me into this current agency where I've been at 3 years. And one of the things when we first started talking about belonging efforts and how to introduce this, we wanted to create a video in-house that didn't just feature our current diversely formed pair team at the time, but talking about how we can unintentionally, and in some cases intentionally, harm people or tokenize people by assuming because you're a Black officer or a Black officer who's also female, or the one high-profile person at headquarters who happens to also be a veteran, that you must want to be a part of these videos. So when we started crafting this, we had to deconstruct that first, and then talk with everybody who was interested in the agency to be a part of this video about what your messaging is going to be, what your ongoing commitment to it's going to be beyond the video, because it wasn't a one and done for me. I wanted to make sure and make that clear that what are we agreeing to beyond that, and how are we going to continue this messaging? And it isn't just something that you share on your socials after you've done it, that it's an ongoing commitment. So that was really important. Now I say that, this video is almost 2 years old now. It feels outdated in this current climate. So we schedule the week after this equity summit a time to come back together. So we'll do that next Wednesday to talk about what is outdated, what's moldy, what we learned here, and how we can update that messaging, maybe create something different or co-create something different to continue the learning.
Yeah, this is a really great point, Jim, and I really appreciate you sharing this, because one of the things that we really have to be mindful of, I think it's something I would even say, dare I say, be careful of, is utilizing communications as a way to talk about what you're aspiring to do. Okay, community members experience government patting themselves on the back for an idea, right? Not the execution of the idea or the embedding of the change of culture. You talk about, like, yes, we want to be belonging, so let's put out a belonging statement. But you can't do that until the people that are in that space actually feel as though they belong. And until more people who you're hiring that maybe don't look like the ones you already have on your teams feel like they belong. So this is something that I think is essential in communications. What I am grateful for with the Office of Equity is because we're new, we're building this culture, and we get to talk about, like, what we're actually experiencing. That's some of the things that comms professionals can really begin to push back on, because the idea is that once it's out there, that means it's true, isn't true, right? That's a great example, Jim. Thank you so much. Let's go on to the next slide. Great sharing in the chat to appreciate all of y'all so much. All right. So we know that a lot of planning happens in comms. We talk about comms plans. I've been looking at different comms plans, and I see comms plans that have, like I said, the one-pagers, maybe some talking points, maybe they've done some history. You can use any of these kind of resources as bullet points, and those are comms plans. Sometimes comms plans go a step further, and they actually have a media kit, because they're like, hey, we developed this really cool thing. We want to show you this dope media kit that you can use now for your social media, because we've thought about it for you. Makes it easy too to just like utilize this amazing image or these quotes, right? For video, we have to always think of storyboarding. So I have an example here on the screen, my video plan. This is really needed for all storytelling, but it's different if you're just doing a document. Video, you want to actually connect your imagery with the message that that imagery is supposed to convey. I see a lot of stuff that happens without this, and then the audience is left like, what are you trying to say? You know, maybe it's just too out of the box or something, right? So matching up imagery with the actual point of the image is important, especially when you're trying to connect with community members. We talked about representation here. We talked about language access. We talked about using local folks that people know, right? Building off those relationships. Well, if you have someone who is local to the area, you're targeting with your communications, why do they on camera? Always be thinking of that. Because for you to be able to approach them in a way, their reputation and community, you have to acknowledge that this is something that we're committing to, and the reason why we want you there is because you've been doing, you embody the example that we're trying to set here. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but again, it can't be tokenizing. Next slide. And really excited. Yesterday, I talked a bit about this digital equity campaign, a strong opportunity to make a bold statement that was just about awareness, because we don't have all the things. So we said, look, we understand the commitment because we understand a budget behind this. We understand there are teams behind this. We want to make sure that we're showcasing the need of the commitment to digital equity through a experts also share how this is happening within state government and why it's necessary. All right, this is a long form video here, but I want y'all to be taking notes of what is standing out to you in this video, what makes sense about this storytelling, what is innovative about this storytelling. Do I have a slide that says that, or does this just go straight to the, I think it just goes to the video, right? Okay, so be thinking about those things. What's innovative about this? If you have a notepad, you have, your phone out, take some notes. Or if you're like me and you can keep it in the head, that's fine too. There it is. That comes after it, right? Okay, good. So I do have stuff in there that we'll dive into. Let's go ahead and show this video. This is this has not even really been released, so y'all are getting to see it first. I'm really excited about this. Yes, you can clap for that. This is a awareness, really about awareness campaign. Why do we need digital equity? Okay, take a look.
When we needed to turn our homework in, we would usually type as much out or do as much as we could at home, and then we would drive here at night, park in the parking lot after the library is closed, as it gets dark, and hope that no one catches you as you try to connect to the internet. A big component of digital equity is having access to the internet, having access to broadband. There was once we were inside, they let us stay in the conference room after the library closed. The called the police. And so the cops showed up and they pulled their guns out. And we have headphones on, right? So we're not aware that anything's happening until they're right there with weapons drawn, trying to figure out what's going on. And that's just us trying to do homework.
So we're walking around back to the library right now where they would allow us to drive our van in the back here and then plug into an outlet. And so we could do homework late at night without anybody bothering us.
And going to school, parking here, trying to get service. Even until today, it still hasn't gotten any better.
Even while filming this film about digital equity in Washington, we actually experienced a family pull up in their truck and they're still trying to connect to internet so they can have access to it. Even in 2024, 30 to 45 minutes outside of Tacoma, which is a major city in Washington.
We are living in a technology-driven society. It is as basic as learning to read and write. Digital equity is the gap between the segments of the community that need access to both skills, devices, and digital literacy training. We have about 8 million people who live in Washington. 9% impacted by technology, devices, and digital literacy skills.
My name's Mia Gregerson, and I represent the 33rd Legislative District. I think everybody deserves to have fast enough internet that's affordable. So you have the fast, affordable infrastructure, then you also have the devices, the appropriate devices. If you're asking kids to do their homework on their phone, it's not helpful. And then it's the literacy skills, the platforms, to subscribe to the platforms, to use them, to stay safe, but also fully participate.
It's hard to talk about because it shouldn't happen. Quality of life that's good for us, that's good for me, should be afforded to everyone. No one should be left behind. The cost of bringing people forward will just increase every year. We have to make investments now, breaking down the digital divide so that families and individuals aren't left behind.
I have lived at Center Park 19 years, and I've been involved in this the whole time. We're a computer lab for people with disabilities. My name is Doreen Cornwell. I'm legally blind. It's a condition that runs in my father's family. So when we say we focus on digital navigation with people with disabilities, we're by and for people with disabilities. And what that means is that if you have a disability, you can come in here and see other people like you and learn from them about, well, what they use or what works for them. There's technology and there's the peer support. Digital equity means being able to do what makes you happiest, gives you the best life. Chastity a while ago wanted to buy a concert ticket.
My name is Chastity Landy, and I'm a member of STAR.
The way to do that is through Ticketmaster. Well, we tried a couple different things.
I was looking on Ticketmaster to see what shows I wanted to go to, and I saw that Justin Timberlake was going to play Climate Pledge Arena.
I tried it both on my phone and on the website application.
I'm not sure I would have been able to go to the concert without help to download it and check the seating and all that. By the time the show was over, I had no voice left. Oh, I was so happy. I'd like to go again, actually.
Digital equity means being able to do the same activities that your rest of your family can do.
Oh, let's go again. I'd be like, yes. And can we get a backstage pass this time?
The same way as everybody else wants their technology to give them a good life. Well, even right in Seattle, there's different parts of the city where the internet service isn't great. Certainly because Washington has a few big urban centers and a lot that's really rural. There's lots of questions about how you meet the needs of rural people. Are you able to get services all the way to people's homes, or do they have to, drive somewhere to go to a library? Every house and every business that wants internet should have it. And by internet, I mean internet enough to function in like everyday functions.
For the first time in the state's history, we have a state digital equity plan. The most significant challenge is how do we the actions across local communities involving community-based organizations that understand how to best deliver those services.
Our tribal governments are really stepping up, and they're solution-based. They're taking care of their communities. They're also opening up those ideas to the rest of us. And it should be a priority of Washington State to continue to be a partner in that space.
When COVID hit, on our reservation, the lack of access to broadband was a huge issue. A lot of people didn't have anywhere to go besides the pavilion or the high school for those community resources that provided internet.
My name is Erwin Dillon. I'm from the Spokane tribe. I live in Welpinette, Washington. I'm very lucky to have internet where I live, but the internet isn't great. It's mostly affected me in doing Running Start out at Eastern. So it was hard for me to be able to turn in assignments because you just saw the little blue circle going and going and going, and then nothing would ever submit. I got to a point where I actually had to start going either to the pavilion, to the high school, or into Airway Heights somewhere to do my homework. I would just sit in my car and do as much as I could. It's almost isolating. People do need internet in order to go about their day-to-day lives. It's just a really stressful situation when you go somewhere and you're trying to say, hey, I need this, there's no one for you.
I think when COVID came about, it allowed us to see how we can make ourselves better. And since then, we've been able to start our own broadband service that we offer to reservation residents that's relatively affordable to them. I think having more access to broadband will allow our people to grow in the sense of knowledge. Unfortunately, some of our reservation residents usually stop after high school just because it's tough to get to places, unfortunately, for some of them, right? We're so desolate out here. Our traditional schools and colleges. So having that online option and allowing them to have a dedicated internet service that's affordable and reliable will be a huge internet growth.
Technology, if it was used right, it can step in and become almost like part of our oral tradition. Oral, that's how we taught our people, taught our kids how to be a Spokanee. I've been teaching the kids art, different styles of art, carving in stone, painting, drawing, for at least 25, 30 years. I want to take our tribal stories, animate them with English subtitles, but speaking Salish. They can see the English, but then they can correlate Salish with it. It'll help them learn. And they'll pick up the language, they'll pick up our history. And through digital technology, I could reach any number of people. That's what I'm looking for. Bring our kids back in so our culture is still there, still in their minds, still fresh. Right now, we're losing it, and it's disappearing fast. We've got to reach the children so culture doesn't die. They need to hear our old tribal stories, to let them know who they are, and to be proud of it.
Digital navigators to us are super important because we receive 50% of our service calls as digital navigator calls.
You need somebody one-on-one building that relationship and kind of showing them, walking them through.
If digital equity was solved, I believe we would have much growth and prosperity within our tribal members in so many areas: education, healthcare, small businesses. So many times, we take it for granted that we know how to do all these things, but just helping everybody else just succeed and, feel good about themselves.
Now is the time to make sure that we invest in this, because when we do this, we're investing in our kids, we're investing in the future, we're investing in jobs. We care about healthy water, and we care about clean homes, and we have to care about this too.
Inaction by the state to solve digital equity will mean that we create a digital divide, and the cost of coming out of the divide, solving that problem, will get that much more expensive. My goal for digital equity in Washington State is everyone who feels they need digital skills training or internet access has access.
Our children love singing a song. This is actually one of our theme songs for our school. Yeah, we are, we are.
Okay, so now we can get into the discussion here, but I'll point out something right away, and this is how you know that y'all got the first look of this. There's no captions, right? Like, that's at least something we do first and foremost, but I thought it was such a great example that I wanted to be sure to show you that example today. Let's hear about some of the things that may have stood out to you. Wendy, I know we may need to one again. Hands, anything that felt about that coming from government costs?
Alexis from WashDOT, Eastern Region. I really appreciated that the video included Eastern Washington. Most videos that we see about Washington are very west side central. So I was really appreciated and excited to see, and that's feedback we get in our region is everything that comes out from Olympia is about Olympia and Seattle. So I really appreciated that, and I know that our community would appreciate that. So that was.
Thank you. It's absolutely right. Incorporating parts of the state. We hear that a lot for Eastern Washington. So we have to be mindful. If we're hearing it so much, it matters, right?
Good morning. I found it really interesting that the Spokane tribe talked about the oral history and how important that is, but they realize that they're not meeting the needs of their youth and being able to tell their stories or have accessible. So they're working on trying to digitize things so that they can keep those stories and customs alive. I thought that was really great.
Yeah. Absolutely. That goes to show, again, I think when we talk about the importance of digital equity, while they are doing in the community, how much more they can reach if they had that access with no issues. Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Ryan Miller, him with the Department of Ecology's Nuclear Waste Program. I thought what I really liked about the video was the just the real life example of people across the state. It's not just the government agency just stating these facts and describing the the digital divide. It's talking about the real life examples, and so not just government person talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, that personalization, that's what's going to, that's the beauty of video because you can do it. What I'm experiencing is we won't always do it. So thank you. That's a really great example. Can you make sure that I'm back in this Zoom? I don't see the slide or myself. I just want to make sure I'm getting pinned back in there somehow. It might be on my end. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong here. Go ahead.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for making this video. I beat this drum. I can't tell you how much, and it makes me feel so much less alone. This is an important thing for me on many levels. I really appreciate the East Side and everything, and I know my partner really loves it when I call her out and everything, but when we did go through COVID and we were able to work at home, and we could bring more people from throughout our agency who are in different places on board to work at headquarters, not just Olympia. But is it okay if I share? Go through. And I'm sorry that's insane. And so this is really important to me. But one of the things I noticed about the video that I really liked was the personal story and everything, but then you're juxtaposing like pictures of Seattle, and it made me think of this like really technology-based state that's like, whoa. And they're right there in Pierce County, and they're going to the freaking library and hanging out in the back, and they're still having to do that. And that gives me chills. That tells you right there of how it's not just out in rural areas. It's right here at home.
Yeah,
So
100%.
anyway.
Even here, children, because you're absolutely right. I think too, there's a misnomer that Seattle has Amazon and all Microsoft and right. And so they're taken care of out there. No, it's not true. So we wanted to be sure that the personal experiences were captured here, because one of the things for me, did we have more hands? Those are some good ones. Yeah. We'll take this last. Did I see another hand back there? I don't know if people are doing this. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say from, like, not even from a content point of view, but from a style point of view, I appreciated I don't know what the right word is to say, but sorry, my battery's turning off. Weird. Did you guys hear the glitch?
I did, yeah. Is that in the mic?
don't know.
Okay,
I'm a
we'll
robot.
fix it.
The sadness of the first part, right? Like, and the stylization of it and oh, thank you. The way that it was filmed, the way that it was styled, it engaged in a lot of ways. And I think when it comes to like based communication videos, right? It's very much straight. These are what we have. This is what we're gonna do. And we're in the world of, Netflix and HBO and all these documentaries, right? We're learning about true crime, we're learning about cults, we're learning about environments and people. And I think stylizing it in a documentary style when that is like what everyone is watching, bullet points, here's a picture, and here's kind of a story. So I appreciate that as someone who consumes media in that way and appreciates the learning aspect of it. I think that's really engaging.
Yeah, and so you hit the nail on some of my points. We can go to this next slide here, because I really wanted to, can't see in here, but here, so this cinematic part here, like even the beginning for me, when we went through some edits, but I really appreciated it. Starts off with no sound and it increases over time, and you see what's going on here. Whoa, I'm in this now. Where are you taking me, right? That was something that was really important to me. And of course, we talked about this personalizing, but then the range of perspectives for me, I mean, it dives deep into the personalization, right? Because we hear from folks in Spokane, we hear from folks at the Disability Center, the breadth of you almost can never beat that. You can never beat her saying, next time let me the backstage pass, right? You can. So these are the kinds of things that we get to do when we co-create with amazing folks who really not only have their finger on the pulse. Yeah, they're having an issue online. Are you trying to fix it? Okay. Sorry, y'all, you can't see me, and I can't see me either. You're so right about technology. They're trying to fix it, y'all, I promise. Thank you so much, AV team. We appreciate you. I know my presentation is the toughest. We got lots of video. But you can see that range of perspectives. If we want to be talking to people throughout the state with different identities, different lived experiences, different other abled folks, we have to be inclusive of them, and we have to spotlight them in ways that not only are extracting their lived experiences, but are really allowing for their contribution to be exemplified and be nurtured. That's what I appreciated about this long form example. Next slide. So we're going to move into short form storytelling. Now, right, we get used to, oh man, nobody's going to watch, that's like 13-minute video. Nobody's going to watch a 13. They will, if they're into it, they will. So, of course, when we do videos like that, we get a 3-minute clip, we get a 1-minute clip, but nothing really is going to beat the full video. Now, we can do the 1-minute and 3-minute teasers to get folks excited about the full video. Man, hold on, let me click on this full video because I'm bought in, I'm sold into this story. But what's great about short form is it goes to a lot that we are dealing with today. We talk about shorter attention spans, We have the need to be very quick. We're kind of a microwave society. We're used to getting it now. We got DoorDash. I don't got to leave my house. Everything is in the palm of my hand. I carry it with me on my cell phone. All of this is very true and contributes to the need for us to also be engaging in short form story. Now, I have a couple of examples here. I think the next slide. Oh, I talked about dynamic voice. I can't see it, so I'm sorry, y'all, because y'all can read it though, but I have some examples here. This is also for digital equity, 2 different commercials cut in 60 seconds and in 30 seconds. We're gonna show both of them back to back so that y'all can kind of see the difference between, I got a 30-second slot for TV, I got a 60-second slot for TV. How I minimize the time. Go ahead. Oh, I want to make sure they can see it online. They still can't see yet? Okay, hold on. Oh, there it is. Can y'all see it online? Yes, okay. Let's go ahead.
Closing the digital divide, ensuring Washington State continues to be a national leader in the space of digital equity is a core mission of the Washington State Office of Equity. This is not an easy task in a state as diverse as ours, not only in size and topography, but also in demographics, including socioeconomic factors, as well as the natural divides of rural and urban access and infrastructure. It is the commitment of the Office of Equity to not only bring digital equity, but digital equality to ensure that young learners in the smallest cities in our state have the same equal footing as those in our most affluent neighborhoods. Our elders and veterans can access services like telehealth online, that high school students in our urban centers aren't forced to study in restaurant lobbies because they cannot access the web at home. The Washington State Office of Equity, bridging the digital divide across the Evergreen State. Closing the digital divide and ensuring that Washington State
Closing the digital divide and ensuring that Washington State continues to be a national leader in the space of digital equity is a core mission of the Washington State Office of Equity. It's a commitment of the Office of Equity to not only bring digital equity, but digital equality to ensure that young learners in the smallest cities in our state have the same equal footing as those in our most affluent neighborhoods. The Washington State Office of Equity, bridging the digital divide across the Evergreen State.
So 2 examples there for short form. If we go to the next slide here, when we talk about the discussion, these are some key points that I really look for in short, because engaging the voice. Oh, now I can see it. Yay, thank you so much, team. Let's talk quickly. Why did these ads work, or maybe what could have been done differently? Any examples? Any sharing? Online, blurry, but yes, you did see it. Okay, thank you, Joshua. Anything that stood out? Anything that worked?
I think one thing I would have liked to have seen at the very end, instead of panning again the Seattle area, maybe something in Vancouver or Asotin County, Walla Walla, or Spokane, something that's very commonly known across the state as well, to again give both west and east side pictorials for the spot.
Yeah, that's a really great comment there. And you're absolutely right. This one had some of it, but it could have definitely brought it back around at the end. That was a great point.
Yeah, I just think starting with the west is great, but finish.
Thank you.
Hi there, thank you so much. Oh yeah, that echo. Miranda Hine, Executive Director for Arts Ed Washington, still figuring out that echo. I'm based in Spokane, but we're a Washington-wide nonprofit advocating for equity in our arts programs and schools. And I just wanted to add on with the comments about recognizing both East Side and West Side. I think that's obviously really important. On top of that, I was just going to mention I was raised in Moses Lake, and so dead center of the state, and a lot of my friends were from the teeny tiny communities around us where they traveled to us in Moses Lake for all the stuff, maybe like internet for a while. And I think it's also really nice to be able to see elements of the central or the peninsula, or I love that you mentioned Walla Walla, way up in Okanagan County when we're talking about these things, because I do find, especially when we talk about opportunity gaps, that often fall into East Side and West Side, which is well-intentioned as we mean for that to be, on some levels, I think sort of contributes to an us versus them impression in Washington. And I know that's not what any of us are wanting to do. It's just kind of a fallback of our conversations. So I loved that last idea of maybe panning somewhere else. And I thought, okay, as long as we're thinking about panning elsewhere, maybe we pan to Walla Walla or up in the, or Vancouver or Moses Lake.
Yeah.
So, addition, thank you so much.
Yeah, great point. And it's also echoed here in the chat. Thank you so much for that, Terry. Also, Jen Templeton said it brought awareness but didn't prompt action to find out more or how this is being accomplished. Absolutely. With an awareness campaign, it's just the beginning. So this is a part of a longer strategy. You're absolutely right. The website wasn't ready yet to direct traffic to it, right? And so there's a lot where we're just like, we need to just get people engaged now. Like, oh, so it's a part of a longer, kind of larger campaign. Great point, Jen. We had two more hands here. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cami Ripoll, and I'm Spanish lead with Department of Ecology. I would say we never explain to people that are not in this circle what equality and equity is.
Yeah.
So I think in a way it's a missed opportunity to tell people exactly what we're talking about and what those concepts mean so that they can care if they already have these benefits.
Yeah. The two are not the same. You're absolutely right. It's important when we think about some of the connection between equity and equality. What are we saying? Great point.
Hello, my name is Victor Rodriguez. I'm with the Buenos Dias. One of the things that I noticed, and I might have missed it, but I don't think I did, is that there was no captions, right? And we saw a longer video, folks trying to buy tickets, and I saw their screens enlarged and all that. So I know that there's a way that you can automatically bring up those captions. I know you can click on the button and there's some generated, right? But I know there's a difference between intentionally uploading the script and the copy and having it automatically turn on and not having folks going in there trying to find the button. So that's one of the things that I would change that would help folks are visually.
Yeah, no, I mean, for us, that's a part of our accessibility plan. These were broadcast TV commercials. So you're absolutely right. Always embed captions for broadcast TV, but that is a great point.
Good morning, buenos dias. Liel Cruz, I go by Eli, Department of Ecology. I use him, his pronouns. I work in the Central Region Office as an outreach and communication specialist. One thing I would these are great commercials. They look awesome, very professionally done, but I don't really see a representation of those rural communities. I see a lot of staging. I see a lot of it being very professionally done, right? Everything looks nice and tidy and clean, but I don't see a real home that you would find in the Lower Yakima Valley on the eastern side of Washington or anywhere else where it really represents the communities that are lacking all of these services.
That's a great point. You know, this actually took from an earlier campaign where we were in Quincy, and there was another area that's escaping me, but that was actual footage on the ground. So like kind of waving at the camera. We had done some interviews specifically with folks, but you're right, you don't get that in this. That's another great point. Y'all are bringing up some great points. We have one right here in the front. I saw you raise your hand a couple times. And in the chat, while we're getting to this person here on site, Joshua McKinney says, oh, the video didn't play, so you saw a still image of the Seattle skyline. We're trying to make sure y'all can see this. Yeah, Quincy and white salmon, yes. Thank you so much. There was some footage there from Quincy and white salmon, but you're right. If you don't see the home represented, sometimes how would you know if it's too general or broad? Great point.
Hi, my name is Monica Corral. They them pronouns, ella in Spanish. I work at the Department of Natural Resources. I'm the Commuter Production Coordinator, Office Administrator for Workplace Culture and Development, and Communications Co-Chair for LLN. One thing I noticed here on the points is voice. I could tell that it was AI, especially in the short clip. The long clip was really effective when it came to like telling what is exactly going on. But when it came to the short clip, there was a huge emphasis on Office of Equity, and the focus was on equity, and that was repeated maybe 2 or 3 times.
It was 3
So what
times.
stuck in my mind was the Office of Equity is doing something related to digital something, and then the rest kind of got lost, which might be because of that emphasis there. And I think more emphasis could have been on like, say Office of Equity once, maybe, but then focus the key amount of time you have on what is happening, what are we doing?
Yeah, great point. Great point. I appreciate these points. We'll try to figure out, we need to figure out the technology for y'all online so that y'all can see these examples and participate in the conversation more fully. I see that, Tara. Thank you for that. These videos will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you will be able to find them there soon as well. I like to not have the patting on the back in the intro, even if the office or state is recognized nationally for their work in that realm. If I'm a community member not feeling those benefits yet, I might disengage from the rest of the content when I hear that. Yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier. We tend to do that, so it's a great point here. Let's go to the next slide. I know this is good conversation, so I love it. Let's go to the next slide. Thank y'all for sharing. This is what this is about. Let's see. Oh yeah, the digital equity videos, those are already online. Thank you for that point on the Zoom. Okay. So, I can only see me. I think it's froze over here, but oh, there it is. Okay. So for social media, we know the format is a little bit different, right? Because we're looking at more vertical, the ratios, the dimensions change, but when you have the opportunity to take advantage of any types of connections or collaborations that you may have in community, social media really helps to drive viewership, specifically if you're working to target either a specific kind of ethnic group, community, etc. Working with folks from those communities really helps drive message. So that's what we did here. We have a couple of examples from our community reinvestment plan work that we did where we were hearing in community. And so we said we need to try to do something, connect directly to that community so they know that these funds are to targeting Black, Latino, and Indigenous communities who were the most impacted by the war on drugs. So if we go to the next slide, I think I get right to those examples. Yep, here we go. We'll show you these two examples.
You may or may not have heard that the state of Washington has $200 million to invest in communities disproportionately harmed by historical design and enforcement of state and federal crime laws and penalties for drug possession, war on drugs. In terms of community grant opportunities. Well, right now, you can find open and upcoming grants by following organizations like Wanawari on IG, who are assisting and helping navigate the application process. You can find the direct link via Linktree on the East Sankofa Theater's Instagram.
For the upcoming grant area, $10 million invested in violence reduction.
$10 million invested in community healer programs.
$5 million invested in youth sports capacity building.
And $5 million invested in barber and beauty shop health navigation.
Funding focuses on community intervention and prevention services.
This includes after-school programs
focused on providing education and mentorship to youth.
I think we have one more example. Thank you. It looks like it's fine. Again, y'all, if you can only hear it.
By us, for us.
By us, for us.
By us, for us. By us, for us. Given the disparities caused by the war on drugs and developing the community reinvestment plan,
priority will be given to Black, Latin, and tribal by and for organizations with the following characteristics.
Have leadership and staff who belong to the Black, Latin, and tribal communities.
Build trust, advocate, respond, and solve problems specific to community members.
Have roots in their communities as change agents and providers of mitigating systems of community service.
Invest in and work with community members to improve their quality of life.
Visit bit.ly/WaState-FUBU to register.
All right. So you can see it's like we said, what may work? What have you done that works? And so using templates that have worked allowed us to actually have huge engagement with those campaigns. There was about 5 to 7 videos that kind of went out over time to explain what it was because there was so much confusion. One of the things that I appreciate about video is we do have the ability to incorporate a lot of different messaging at once. So in that first video, they're like, what is this? Let's try to explain it a little bit. And in the next one, it's like, hey, this is also really specific to these communities. So I appreciate those examples. Let's go to the next slide here. I think there's a question here. Oh, yeah. Thank you. The digital equity videos on YouTube. Okay. So any suggestions there? Anything that resonated with you? If you're trying to connect with specific community, using people from that community, uplift, those are people that are like influencers, so people knew them and like follow them. So it was intentional for us. But one or two things that maybe stood out to anyone. All right, go ahead. Wendy, I don't know where, did Wendy just go? Oh, there you are. You were on the other side of the speaker for me.
Yeah, I think these were way more than the short commercial ones. What stood out? There were some of the people on there that really sounded like they had a more natural voice. Those folks really stood out because you could tell they've probably been trained on this a little bit better, and they spoke more naturally versus the folks that you could tell were reading the script. If like in the future, I would recommend trying getting those, like all of the folks, sounding like the folks that did sound more natural. But overall, it did feel more like an Instagram reel than like something that might not be consumed, like the commercials, like the short commercials. Yeah. I would say, I don't think anybody says IG, but that's just being nitpicky.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing. What's my next slide? Isak Sicha, I'm giving you the room. We're almost done. All right. So we talked earlier, y'all gave some great examples about being in communities, what it really looks like to be building relationship. A part of communications has to be building relationships. It has to be person to person. It has to be that we're known in communities. We talk a lot about, oh, we want to reach all the communities throughout the state, but are we actually going into these communities? Do we think we can do everything through the groups that are already on the ground? Or do we need to be actually traveling throughout the state to make it real? So I'm going to show you this next slide. For us, we really are centering community engagement, not only for directors or leaders, but for our entire staff. And so I had this question about community engagement. I think y'all answered it earlier around how y'all have been doing that work. But you could take a photo of this, because I think these are things that we need to be taking back to our teams. If you're not already thinking of this, if leadership is not already thinking of this, these are some of the things that I feel is really important and that we're embedding in our need everyone on our staff to be out at something in community at least once a month. Once a month is not a hard thing to do. And there's a lot of different activities that are happening. So it starts with not only having a diverse workforce internally that may already be embedded across the state, but now we're saying, as a part of your role, no matter what the role is, you have to be going out in community, building those relationships. This is gonna not only help us when we think about communications, because sure, you could be, I go to places all the time, and inevitably my work comes up, right? I'm not even trying to be there as a representative of the Office of Equity, or I work for the state, but people are like, oh, yo, don't you work for that place? And like, hey, here's what's going on here in our community. How are y'all addressing that? So having those real conversations is really important. The next slide, I think, is just some photos of us being out in community. Let me see. Oh, share out. There it is. So we are really working on this for our office. And it's one of those things that I find very important, because we have to also be building the trust in communities, but it just doesn't happen if you're not on the ground. So I'm grateful that our team members are excited about still like, right? I as a representative of the state and doing this work to be involved in the community. Next slide. Here's some recaps, some notes right here. And truly personalizing content whenever you can is important. Planning properly for your content is important. I talked about copy, voice, and visuals, those three going hand in hand, and also staying connected in your communities. I think the next slide is if y'all have any questions for me. I could take a few. Yeah, you have a question? The next slide says questions. I think any questions? Oh, mine's is okay. Slower.
Hi there again, Ellie from Ecology. I'd like to actually challenge the Office of Equity and be bold with this challenge. I think next time or at the next conference, practice what you're just saying. Invite the community to an event like this and pay for their day and, if possible, their meals and everything, to have the community members participate.
Oh, that's a great point. Thank you for that. That's some of the stuff that we really get to take back. I hope, Beth, you can capture that for us, because what that looks like in state government is very tricky. I think we try to work on some of that. And when we talked about being all over the state, we want people to be able to not only feel like we're coming into their communities, but that they are really engaged, right, in the activities. That was like this. We're like, no, how do we change the system? It's a great point. Thank y'all so much. I think my next slide just says, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank all of y'all online. Sorry for the glitches with the videos, but thank y'all so much for participating. Have a great rest of the conference, y'all. Thank you.